This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
So the long and tortuous process of choosing a new president in Lebanon is being stretched right out to the deadline. MPs postponed a vote to elect President Emil Lahoud's successor, so now they'll have to make a decision just hours before he's due to step down on Friday.
Yes, the Secretary General of the Arab League says now is not the time to despair. But as Rula Amin reports from Beirut, some Lebanese are doing exactly that.
In this Hamra Street parking lot in Beirut, faint voices want to be heard, and it's the loud rhetoric of politicians. Their slogan, Khalas, enough. Lebanese fed up with the political deadlock and concerned about the consequences on their country.
We're really afraid that this country and people and these politicians can lead us to civil violence, and we're not going to accept this. It's their responsibility to find solutions.
It's not just the Lebanese who are concerned. Many Arab and world envoys have made the trip to Beirut in the past few weeks with similar fears. If no president is elected, the government takes over the presidential powers, according to the constitution. Effectively, Fouad Siniora, the current prime minister, would become the ultimate ruler of Lebanon. Absolutely not, says the current pro-Syrian president Emil Lahoud. He refuses to relinquish power to his longtime rival Fouad Siniora. He, along with the opposition, have already questioned the legitimacy of Siniora's government since the 6 Shia cabinet ministers resigned last year. The government no longer represents all Lebanese sects, as the constitution stipulates, they say. The president has threatened to appoint a parallel government, maybe even declare a state of emergency and assign the army chief of staff to run the country. The pro-government bloc threatened to elect a president by simple majority, without the necessary two-thirds quorum.
The opposition will not recognize this president, and we will consider him as an aggressor who hijacked the authority.
All these options could lead the country on a collision course. Mediation efforts are ongoing on how to contain the crisis if there is no agreement. And there is pressure on President Lahoud to leave office without taking any steps to complicate things further. In that case, the opposition is planning to take to the streets to protest Prime Minister Siniora's government takeover of power.
I'm definitely worried. Are there weapons? Yes, there are weapons. And is there tension? Of course there is.
And Amin Ismail warned the March 14th camp will also take to the streets. And no matter how much all parties say they want to contain the crisis, street protests seem to always take on a life of their own.
And earlier, Rula told me that there's a wave of optimism in Beirut, suggesting there will be a new Lebanese president this week.
We just heard a member of parliament, Ali Hassan Khalil, who's a very close advisor to Speaker of the Parliament, Nabih Berri. He said on Friday, Lebanese are going to have a new president, and he will enjoy the support of the majority of the two-thirds of the MPs on that day. And this is the most optimistic voice we have heard so far. I have to say, throughout the people we have been talking to today in the newspapers, an optimistic tone is prevailing. However, there are still obstacles, especially from the Christian community, from significant voices in the Christian community who have not given their consent yet to the proposed candidate. One of those people, and probably the major obstacle, is General Michel Aoun. He is an ally of Hezbollah. He feels he is entitled to be the president and the only one entitled, since he enjoyed the support of more than 70% of the Christian vote in the last parliamentary election.
An important question arises just before the presidential election. To what extent is the Lebanese public satisfied with the performance of their politicians in their efforts to elect a new president for the country? Nisreen Hattoum surveyed opinions of the Lebanese public.
As the political crisis widens, Lebanese citizens have become increasingly disappointed in some of their politicians. This is accompanied by feelings of guilt because these politicians were chosen by the Lebanese voters themselves.
I am 99% disappointed.
As they say, we give them our votes, but until now, we have neither benefited materially or financially. The country can't even stand on its own politically or maintain security.
Politics in Lebanon are constantly moving. You'll find that the members of parliament will be on the right path one day and on the wrong path the next.
In the next few days, Lebanese parliamentarians will be put to two main tests. The first is the election of the next president. The second is making sure not to disappoint the people who put them in the parliament.
I don't think they can represent the people. As long as we are in a tumultuous environment between conflicting fronts in Lebanon, there will be no consensus.
Their opinions are not even their own. The opinions are being dictated to them from abroad by outsiders. The representatives, the leaders, and ministers are all loyal to foreign parties.
In spite of repeated disappointments, some segments of the Lebanese public hold firm to their political rights. However, others are disappointed in their options.
We have to vote, but we have to have confidence in the candidates. Of course, the present politicians have to be absolutely removed from the roots.
If there is a choice of candidates that one is convinced with, he would never change it no matter what.
Even if they disappointed you in some areas?
The people I have voted for have never disappointed me, and I have total confidence in them.
We voted for them when they were all in agreement with one another. Then they had their differences. What's to guarantee that if they come to consensus now that they won't clash again? No one can guarantee anything. It's better not to vote.
Past experience has compelled many Lebanese to re-examine their political choices. This will certainly affect any future election when the Lebanese public will have the final word. Nisreen Hatoum, Al-Arabiya, Beirut.
Coinciding with the Lebanese elections crisis and only days before the Annapolis summit, Arab leaders are rushing to reach a united position on their participation in the meeting. Among these efforts is a meeting of Arab foreign ministers that will be held tomorrow in Cairo. We've learned that the Egyptian president, Hosni Mubarak, is planning to hold a five-way Arab summit on the same day, with the participation of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and the Palestinian Authority. Until now, only Jordan and the Palestinian Authority have confirmed attendance. Egypt is still awaiting Saudi Arabia's and Syria's response. The anticipated summit will be held to discuss the issue of reaching a united position regarding the level of representation at the meeting, as well as including the Arab Initiative as one of the foundations for any future negotiations. The summit is expected to take place at the Sharm el-Sheikh resort.
Interior Minister Eid al-Fayez has announced final results of the parliamentary elections in which the Islamic Action Front suffered the biggest loss. Fayez told a press conference that the elections were trouble-free and had proceeded smoothly in a fair, free and transparent fashion. Nahil Burhan sums up the election's outcome.
According to final results, 29 lawmakers from previous legislature had returned seats in the new 110-seat parliament. The 15th parliament will also have 7 women. One of them, Falak Jamani, had won through competition, while the rest acquired seats via the quota allotted for women. Of the 110 seats up for grabs, only 7 members of the Islamic Action Front were able to win seats, marking it their biggest loss. The Islamists had 17 seats in the previous parliament. Announcing the results, Interior Minister Eid al-Fayez told a press conference the government was neutral and, at behest of His Majesty the King, had put all facilities in place to provide the proper, comfortable environment for voters to cast ballots.
The electoral process took place with ease, transparency and attention to details without bias. The government has implemented the royal decree regarding the elections, and we took all measures and preparations to guarantee an appropriate environment to citizens to vote with ease, transparency and freedom.
The polls, the minister said, marked a historic milestone in Jordan's democratic process that produced the new Jordanian parliament, which will further seek to cement democracy and boost development. Turnout among the 2.5 million voters stood at 54%, but the percentage in rural areas and regions outside Amman was higher. The highest turnout was recorded in the southern town of Tafila, with 82% of the electorate cast ballots, and the lowest was in Amman's second district with 32%. More than 90 civil servants were mobilized for elections, in addition to 40,000 police who were deployed to maintain order and security at polling centers. Faiz praised citizens' awareness as they exercised a basic constitutional right, noting that not a single incident was recorded in any of the polling centers nationwide. He hailed Interior Ministry teams and security forces, as well as the Ministries of Education and Public Works, Jordan Radio and Television, the Jordan News Agency, communications companies, and the media for providing facilities. 2,800 ballot boxes were allocated to 45 districts across the kingdom. 885 candidates, including 199 women, have contested for seats. There has been a general feeling of ease over the electoral process, and the polling had won praise from locals, politicians, journalists, and legislators.
The majority of the winners in Jordan's parliamentary elections are pro-government representatives and independent candidates, according to the final election results announced by the Minister of Interior, Eid al-Fayez. Jordan's opposition, Islamic Brotherhood, regarded this new parliament as a way for the government to control the parliament and to instill laws that limit personal freedoms, particularly those of the political blocs and the opposition. Asmahan Khouri reports.
Like a book read from its cover, the results of the parliamentary elections in Amman, Jordan were clear even before the vote count and the official announcement of the results.
والإعلان الرسمي للنتائج كانت الصورة واضحة حتى قبل أن توضع في إطارها الرسمي.
Early on the election process, the Islamic Action Front, which won only 5% of the seats, quickly accused the Jordanian government of fraud and of buying of votes.
تجديد اتهاماته للحكومة الأردنية بتزوير الانتخابات وشراء الأصوات.
بعض الناخبين فوجئوا.
Some of the voters went to the polling centers indicated on their voting cards and were surprised to find that their names were not listed there. Others discovered that someone had already voted in their place.
Regardless of the accusations and counter-accusations, a new parliament aligned with the government will be taking hold of the legislative power of the country. These results disappointed some people who wanted a bigger change in this new parliament.
With us from Amman is our reporter Salwa Al-Sawalqa. Salwa, what are the reactions to the official results of the elections?
According to the political circles in Jordan this morning, a new government is expected to replace the government of Prime Minister Ma'ruf al-Bakhit, now that its mandate has ended with the parliamentary elections. They speculated that the new government's prime minister will be Nader al-Dahab, who heads the special economic zone in Aqaba city. In regards to the elections, most of the winning candidates are aligned with the government, and most of the parliamentarians are independents who are known not to oppose the government. The results brought new faces in the parliament, with 29 parliamentarians re-elected from the previous parliament. There's also one woman who won outside of the quota of the seats reserved for women. The initial reading on this 15th parliament shows a decline in the number of parliamentarians from the opposition and an increase in pro-government representation.
المفوضية العليا لشؤون اللاجئين.
According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the number of Somalis displaced in Somalia stands at 1 million, and more than 200,000 have fled Mogadishu during the past 2 weeks due to the war.
كهذا المريض الذي يضنته الحرب
Just like this ailing man who looked frail and exhausted from the war, Somalia is standing down after sustaining injuries caused by the many years of conflict and instability. This is the outcome of more than 11 years of attacks and counterattacks among Somali rival forces and intervening territorial and international forces. Somalia has not seen peace and security for decades. The raging violence, with its dark image, has reached the homes of Somali civilians who were forced to flee to safer places. According to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, nearly 1 million Somalis have been displaced due to war. The figure is astonishing and is likely to increase as the level of violence increases. The vast majority of the refugees came from Mogadishu. More than 600,000 have fled the Somali capital since last February amidst fierce clashes that erupted between the Ethiopian and Somali coalition forces on one side and the remaining Islamic Courts forces on the other. More than 200,000 Somalis have fled Mogadishu during the past 2 weeks alone. The living conditions of the refugees are no better now than they were before. The nightmare of the Somali refugees will not end until stability and security return to the country, and until this happens, the blood will continue to flow.
According to the Sudanese Health Ministry, nearly 100 people have died from Rift Valley fever that was reported in several parts of Sudan. In addition, the Health Ministry said that 360 people are believed to have contracted the disease in the areas of Amin al-Abid, Sinar, and the Al Jazeera state in southern Khartoum.
The American occupation forces announced that 3 of its soldiers were attacked and killed in Bakuba. Meanwhile, the governor of Muthana said the occupation forces killed 2 citizens and injured 4 others when an American armory vehicle opened fire without any provocation on civilian cars near Rumesa, north of Samawa. Governor Mohamed Marzouk said the American attack was savage, brutal, and illegal, and threatened to cut all relations with the American forces in his province. Our reporter in Baghdad has the details.
The incidents may vary, but the results are the same. Americans kill Iraqis, then they apologize. This may be hard to conceive, but this is the reality in Iraq. The American embassy in Baghdad said it was sorry that a number of Iraqis were killed in Al-Rumisa city in Al-Muthanna province in southern Iraq, and the American occupation forces released a statement saying that the incident was an accident. An American occupation armored vehicle had opened fire on Iraqi citizens there.
Regrettably, the American occupation forces kill people and then they say that they are sorry. What good does the apology do after the innocent people are killed? People are killed every second and every hour. What good does the apology do? They claim that they care about human rights, but they do not respect the most basic human rights.
The American forces use methods that are aimed at controlling the diverse Iraqi population. They hit here and there, and then they say that they are sorry. These are just some of their aggression. We know the American forms of aggression since they have come to Iraq. The Iraqi people must be aware of the ongoing conspiracy.
Not a single day goes by in Iraq without violence. Today, 1 citizen was martyred and 6 others were wounded. Some sustained critical injuries. The incident happened when an explosive device exploded in a bus in Al-Baladiyat, eastern Baghdad. Meanwhile, Iraqi security forces pulled 3 unidentified bodies from the Tigris River. One of the bodies belonged to a 3-year-old child. One wonders if the apology which was made by the American embassy in Baghdad was about the mistakes that happen every day and often cost the lives of many innocent Iraqis.
Russia and Syria stressed the importance of electing the next Lebanese president by consensus. Meanwhile, Alexander Sultanov called for holding a conference in Moscow. Our correspondent, Razuk Al-Ghawi, has the details from Damascus.
The Lebanese issue was at the center of discussion between the Russian presidential envoy, Alexander Sultanov, and the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his vice president, Farouk al-Shara. During the meeting, the leaders stressed the importance of electing the new Lebanese president based on unanimous agreement by all Lebanese parliamentary blocs. In a press conference, Sultanov said that Russia is deeply concerned about the political developments in Lebanon, and it is exerting efforts to help the Lebanese reach a presidential consensus. Sultanov added that Russia is urging the Lebanese and others to exert efforts in this regard. Moreover, Sultanov said that Lebanon is going through a very critical stage and they must help the Lebanese overcome their political crisis. He confirmed that his country will continue to make contacts with all Lebanese blocs. He said that Russia has maintained a neutral relationship with both the Lebanese government and the opposition. Sultanov said that Russia is participating to create an appropriate atmosphere to help the Lebanese elect a president who is acceptable by all sides.
We hope that the meeting will be successful. Our Syrian friends also stressed that they want the meeting to be successful. We, our partners and friends, hope that the meeting will be productive. As you know, we have suggested that the meeting will take place in Moscow.
ونحن كما من المعروف اقترحنا المكان لهذا الاجتماع موسكو.
Once again, Syria reiterated that it will not participate in the Annapolis Peace Conference if its agenda will not include the Golan Heights.
Syria has not received any invitation thus far. As Mr. Sultanov has said, Syria cares a great deal about the peace process. The peace process must be comprehensive and just. The agenda of the Annapolis Peace Conference must include the Golan Heights so Syria can attend.
The Deputy Foreign Minister, Dr. Faisal al-Muqtad, said that Syria is interested a great deal in the peace process if it is comprehensive and just. Razuk Al-Ghawi, New TV, Damascus.
Since their occupation of Jerusalem in 1967, the Zionist forces have continuously carried out hostile practices against Al-Aqsa Mosque. This Zionist campaign aims at Judifying the holy city, altering the Islamic features of Al-Aqsa Mosque, and imposing an existing state of affairs on it.
The Zionist threats of terror against the holy city of Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa Mosque have rapidly turned for the worse. The Zionist occupation is trying to create a new state of affairs in the Palestinian territories in an attempt to gain concessions from the Palestinian Authority. This news comes as the Palestinian Authority continues to offer concessions at the expense of Palestinian legitimate rights, including the right of sovereignty over Jerusalem. In support of Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa, and with the participation of more than 5,000 Arab and foreign activists, Al-Quds International Forum held its annual meeting in the Turkish city of Istanbul. Under the protection of the Israeli security forces, some Zionist rapists stormed into the Marwan Mosque and the corridors of the Al-Aqsa Mosque to inflict destruction and stir corruption. Stripping Palestinians of their legitimate rights is not a mystery anymore, but what is strange is to find some Palestinian figures involved in this scheme. This news comes after a Zionist newspaper disclosed some dangerous news regarding a memorandum of understanding signed by Yossi Beilin, an Israeli member of parliament, and Yasser Abed Rabo. According to the document, the Palestinian Authority agrees to abandon the right to return and gives up parts of Jerusalem. While the Palestinian Authority agrees to give up parts of the holy city, several Zionist Knesset members roamed the streets of Jerusalem and visited areas adjacent to Al-Aqsa Mosque, where they disclosed a plan for new construction. With this, the Zionist enemy is trying to mandate its myth of the so-called historical rights of the Jews in Jerusalem. In addition, the Israeli Knesset approved a law prohibiting the government from giving up any part of Jerusalem and thus making it a unified capital of the Zionist entity. According to the law, any amendments must be approved by at least 80 members of the Knesset. This shows that the vast majority of the Zionists oppose offering concessions regarding the holy city of Jerusalem. Meanwhile, the Zionist government is planning to annex all Jewish settlements around the holy city to the municipality of Jerusalem in an attempt to increase the size of the Jewish population there. In addition, the Zionist entity wants to return some of the Arab neighborhoods in Jerusalem to the Palestinian Authority. With this, Israel wants to show the world that it has given up Palestinian land in search for peace.
November 22nd marks the birth anniversary of Imam Reza, the 8th Imam of Prophet Muhammad's infallible household. A united Iran is in full happiness on the eve of this auspicious occasion. In the northeastern Iranian city of Mashhad, where the shrine of Imam Reza is located, people have illuminated the entire city, ready to celebrate the event. Here from Tehran, the staff at JNN Newsroom would like to extend their congratulations to all Muslims on this joyous occasion. The southern Iranian city of Shiraz is well known for its unique historical sites and for possessing two great poets of Hafiz and Sadi. But this time we introduce you Shiraz as a city where Imam Reza's brother, known as Shah Cheragh, has been martyred and laid to rest. Arabiya reporter Hajar Khojrugi has more.
The most important pilgrimage center of Shiraz is the shrine of Sayyid Mir Ahmed, known as Shah Cheragh, the elder brother of Imam Reza, the 8th Shiite Imam. At the beginning of the 3rd Islamic century, Sayyid Mir Ahmed, accompanied with a group of the followers of Imam Reza, left Medina to go to Tus and visit his brother. But near Shiraz, the Abbasid forces martyred him and his companions.
President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad says Tehran is ready to sit for talks on fair and equal basis with any country except for the legal regime of Israel. Addressing the residents in the northwestern city of Arabiya, the Iranian president pointed out that some Western media are making a fuss over Iran's civilian atomic work because the West is poised to win concessions on the case. However, as he made it clear, the Iranian nation would not come short of its legal nuclear rights. President Ahmadinejad went on to say Tehran believes that its nuclear dossier is over since the country is abiding by the IAEA regulations and the UN atomic watchdog is performing its routine supervision tasks.
One nation, many voices. The stories of Muslims in America. At work, at play, having fun. What is life like for the millions of people in this country who practice Islam?
And then finally I looked in my heart. Even today, Muslims still recite
kind of in limbo.
Now's your chance to share stories of Muslims in America in our One Nation, Many Voices online film contest. We're awarding $50,000 in cash prizes divided among 6 categories: comedy, drama, documentary, animation or music, a special category for filmmakers 18 and under, plus films under 60 seconds long. You don't have to be a Muslim to enter or to vote for your favorite films online. You just have to live in the United States. The new deadline for entries is December 31st, 2007, so hurry. Check out details at linktv.org/onenation. One Nation, Many Voices. Muslims in America. Stories, not stereotypes.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.